regardless of how you start, you're always going to sound unique from everybody else. Just because your love of words, your love of language, the way you speak, kind of like the way you present yourself is going to be very, very idiosyncratic, right? Because that's what happens. You're going to dig so deep into yourself, into the work, into your references, that you're going to create something that sounds so. And for you to spend all that time doing that for the little reward it gives, when you could easily be a rapper or a comedian or anything else, you just go. How do I feel about people going out? What is that about? I think people are going out. I just don't think they're drinking. I think people are looking for experiences. I think people are looking for connections.
Sure.
I feel like people are looking for ways of engagement that lights them up, you know. And I do not believe that the old modes of consume, especially seeing as that is now more pervasive than before. Because before it used to be you went to work and then you went to the pub and you had the weekend to yourself.
Sure.
And that was where you know, and it kind of, the two validated each other. They were the yin and yang. You worked at this job you didn't like, but then you got to spend between 2 to 3 days with your friends and your family and people who you loved, and then you went back and forward, right? But
now it's all mixing. Now it's work, it's home, it's play.
Now it's all mixing. You don't get 5 hours at home, or 8 hours at home, you know, or to just relax with the TV. Your phone is always on. Your boss can text you at any point in time, and the weekends are no longer yours anymore. And so you're asking people like, okay, I'm consuming this stuff. I'm consuming on the phone. I'm consuming in the tube. I have no time for myself, and then I'm going to go to the pub and I'm going to keep on consuming. It's like, well, no, something's got to give. And I feel that like obviously people have less money, so they're a lot more prudent with where they spend it, and I guess people are a lot more prudent about where they spend their time.
Sure.
You know,
does it not speak to, like, so we were talking about Spotify, right? It's how it's they basically pay artists nothing for their music as compared to like buying a vinyl or buying a CD. But like, it's the thing of people are running out of money to actually go out and see something live or go out and do something with their friends, particularly in a place like London. I know you don't live here anymore, but like, I imagine that's part of the reason why is you can't go outside without spending money. It's like winter now, it's dark all the time. I'm with my partner and I'm like, I want to go outside because I've been at home all day. But it's like, what do? There's nothing to do except go out and spend money, go to the pub or see a movie.
I again, this is where I feel like people are a lot more prudent about what they do. Because I can count myself as very lucky and blessed, right? Like, the world feels like it's going topsy-turvy, and this is exactly the time when my career starts to flourish, and people are sort of paying money to come and see me live. We sold out on Manchester, and our lead dates and the rest of them are looking very close to selling out. And I look at this and I count my blessings. I'm happy, I'm lucky, but at the same time, I recognize that like what I'm doing is connecting, you know, and people want to connect with that. There was a point where I could not sell 150 tickets in London. Right. I was in a band. The band was running for 10 years. We couldn't sell 150 tickets in London. You know, for several reasons. It wasn't because the band was bad, but I put in a lot of my best work with that band. A lot of work that has kind of started bearing fruit in what I'm doing now. But I don't think we connected in the same way as to what this project is doing. Yeah. And I feel like right now, right, people are spending the money where they feel they are going to get value, and the value is no longer about am I entertained, am I satisfied? Sure. You know, did I get kind of like the Netflix level of engagement or whatever? You know, was this performance second phone worthy? You know, people are looking for an experience that they don't have elsewhere, and so when your money's tight. And your time is full of like diversions and distractions, you're essentially looking for something that's going to light a fire in you, right? And I think that's what people are spending the money that they have. I'm thankful that that's what people see in what I do. And I think that's what's happening. I do believe that there will be a collapse in the slop only because it will get too heavy because there'll be so much of it. At one point, I don't know where I read this stat, but 1 million songs on Spotify per day. Right. You know, and God knows how much of that is AI slop.
Most of it is.
Yeah. And it's like, okay, who's listening to it? You know, like
a lot of people. There was a band that became really popular
in Sweden, where the top search Spotify song was an AI. Right. People are listening to it, right? But we are here talking about the live element, right? We are here talking about, which is a part that, so far, ABBA Voyage notwithstanding, so far they've been...
I've heard it's fantastic.
I've heard it's amazing, and I'm looking forward to it, actually.
You've seen it tonight.
Take that out. Right? I do believe, I believe that it's not just about the internet, and there is this big gold rush to overwhelm and occupy that space, but all that's going to do is corrupt that space for the people who run it. I think that Spotify are the ones who in the end lose out by having their site completely overrun with AI slop. Once we get it in our systems, right? Once it's no longer new. Okay, here's a perfect example. And bear in mind, I understand that I am breathlessly optimistic here, because I just need to let the listeners know that 20 minutes ago I was I was very depressed.
Shouting and dancing.
I was shouting a lot of depressive stuff. So now that that's all out of my system, I'm going to be.
I was going to say the volume level has significantly dropped.
Stop yourself, right? I'm gonna start with I'm gonna come in with the optimism now, and I'm gonna say that just at the beginning, because remember it was coins, crypto coins, then it was blockchain, and then it was NFTs, and then it was AI. And I remember they were talking about AI, and back then we kind of knew beyond the marketing term that it was just kind of like language learning machines or whatever. The AI was just an interesting marketing term that they kind of slapped on top of it. And one of the first things that they did was there were these apps where you could send your picture in, and it would send you all of these different drawings of your face, right? And they clearly these language learning had just scraped the internet for all of the different artworks there, and then just created composites, using your face as like a foundation. And the thing was, when it first was done, it was really cool, because it's like you can put your face in,
it's
and then
kind of fun. Snapchat
kind of fun. Look at me, I'm a space alien. Look at me, I'm an astronaut. Look at me, I'm kung fu. All of that stuff, and then it became very boring. Like people who stick up these AI pictures of them looking like us, like they just fell out of a knockoff of Blade Runner, right? It was cool for like about 5 seconds, and then it was boring. And I think that's what's going to happen with AI. I think already, I think a lot of Western culture, a lot of Western mainstream culture had sort of kind of glorified the idea of the perfect formula for music, the perfect sound, the perfect
form of media.
The perfect form of media, the perfect hip-hop song, the perfect dance song. And it worked when a few people had those tools. So those few people could come up with this new sound, and it was banging, and then, the amount of people who were making it. But now, the tools, everyone has it. So everyone's going to do it. And the same way we all got tired of dubstep the moment everybody could do it, I think we're all going to get tired of the perfect song when everybody can do it. When everybody can just, with a prompt, put out the song, and we're all here just shouting and no one's listening. It's because everybody wants to listen to something they haven't heard before.
Something real, something
real. And you know what? Language learning machines cannot produce something new. All they can do is show you an average of what they have kind of consumed. They can't consume all of that and be like, let me create something original after that. It could be like, no, I've consumed the entirety of dubstep. What am I going to make? The average dubstep song. We are medians. We are median machine at the best. We are just going to create the most average. And I want to believe that's not how culture works. I want to believe that's not how music culture works. I don't want to believe that the reason why we all started loving Kwaito in the mid-noughties, or we all discovered rave again, right? And glitch pop was because people just wanted to hear something new and interesting. And I feel, right, that that's kind of why Spotify is going to lose out, because they're always going to have the people who treat music as some kind of consumer, but the people who drive the culture, the people who listen to the artists and then go on to sort of follow them live and all of that stuff. I think the use of Spotify as this space where everyone comes to listen to music will depreciate, right? And everyone will I guess the market will fragment. People will find different sources, different ways to find the music, and I feel like live music is going to find different ways to survive and exist. I believe that I don't look at the because it's not my market. I don't look at the mainstream. I don't look at pop. I'm a 45-year-old who makes dance and spoken words like that. Them
walking around like a 30-year-old who does all those things.
Them two words were meant to exist, right? There's gonna be a lot more warehouse parties. There's gonna be a lot more bedroom parties. There's gonna be a lot more parties in fields. There's gonna be just more people who are just kind of like, you know what, bond this. I'm just gonna go hang out with my mates.
Do you think that needs to come from the artists? People like yourself need to create those spaces and take over. Like I can't remember what the new app is that everybody's talking about, but it's like Spotify but different, where it pays more to the artists.
Yeah, I mean, all of that. You see, the things like, I think I'm not a Luddite, right? I don't believe technology is...
It's never going to happen. It's never going to go backwards.
It's not going to go backwards. Like, I believe all these things are what's it called? Technology has a way of working side by side with the human experience, right? And I believe, like, I do feel like not necessarily Spotify, but a Spotify like system will exist side by side with all the other forms of engaging and appreciating art and communicating with each other. And what that is in the future, I have no idea. I only know that the systems that we have right now are corrupt, and eventually they're going to fall, and other things are going to replace it. And I believe that partly because it's happened before as part of history, and also, like, evil people die just like everyone else, and once they die, everyone goes, oh, that's yeah. Once they die, everyone goes, okay, you know what? Sure, that was a terrible time. Let's just move on and do something else. That's essentially where it happens. Apart from some parts of the world where it just repeats itself. But anyway, we're trying to be positive. I'm trying to be positive here. And I guess what I'm saying is that, like, there is going to be a new system. It's going to involve the artists, but it's also going to involve the people. It's going to involve culture as a whole. It's going to involve a national mood. I think, like you're saying, for example, going to the concerts is expensive, right? It's fully expensive. There was this artist, I can't remember who he was, but he's just been organizing gigs in America. He's just been organizing gigs in his backyard, right? And then it just became this big, massive thing. I'm trying to prepare myself for any realization that it was all marketing stunt, because that's the way this kind of like grassroots things tend to happen. But I do believe, actually, no, forget Bonda. Let's look at something that's a lot more close to home. Steam Down. Right. Steam Down was just every Wednesday up in South London, right? From there, they got an article in New York Times. All they did was like, we're going to make really sweaty new jazz in South London, right? That's it. And that's what I mean. That's the stuff that's going to happen. And I feel in the same way in the 70s and 80s, where there was a real sort of like artistic rejection of corporate ventures. It was like, you can't put your music on an ad because that's selling out. You can't put, obviously that was based on the idea that, that was based on the fact that we were all living fairly comfortably, and so we didn't need to. But I feel like that level of rejection of a certain amount of corporate influence is gonna come back. I feel like people are going to naturally just start looking for stuff a lot more local and a lot more homegrown. People are going to want to do things or connect with things that they can trust come from a human being and not just some machine. And yeah, that's the corner that I'm going to flourish. What the rest of the world doesn't.
Going to build a big backyard concert in Sweden in the middle of the snow.
I mean, you laugh about it right now, but it's kind of what it's what could happen.
Yeah, Yeah.
I mean, I feel when I look at the world, I'm terrified, much like everyone else. Terrified for my daughter, terrified for myself, and I remember that's kind of what the bad people want you to feel. They want you to feel terrified. They want you to feel numb. They want you to feel like nothing can be done. Because when you ask yourself what can be done, it seems so big and too gargantuan. But really, what you can be done is, love and help the people around you. That really is it. Just love and help the people around you. Make the space that you exist in at any one time the kind of space you'd want your daughter and your friends to live, and you want everybody else to feel as good and as hopeful and as lovely as you are. I think human beings are a loving species, a loving, helpful, kind species overall. If the internet was not being manipulated by a bunch of dickwads, we'd all just be looking at cat videos and Schadenfreude and people helping people. Those were the videos on YouTube that hit a billion plays. Yeah. Because I feel that's where the human emotion comes from. That's what we are primarily. We're social beings. We're social species. We want everyone to be happy and feel good in a communal space. It's why churches at their best and gyms and nightclubs are all places where people kind of congregate just to have a good time and to celebrate each other. And I believe that you cannot disconnect that from art, right? You cannot disconnect that from communication. You can call it content providers. You can call it product as much as you want till the cows come home, to your belly's fat. You can make as much McDonald's as will fill the universe. But eventually, right, when you're talking about the stuff that makes people feel, that's the stuff that people will reach for every single time. And it's like, rather than sort of looking at the world and thinking, how do we solve this? I'm looking at my backyard. I'm looking at, my daughter's day to day. I'm looking at the music I'm making. Okay, how can I make it that this music connects with people?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And the good thing about AI right now is that it's cured me of my need to be perfect.
In what way?
Before, back in the day, you'd hear a song like made by a mainstream big artist, big rapper. And because I'm a stupid person, I'd assume that person wrote that song by himself, right? And I'd look at that music in its finality, and I look at how perfect, and I compare.
Not seeing the 1,000 people who are behind them.
I'm not even looking at the credits and seeing the 17 people who wrote that song. No, I'm just thinking Drake wrote it all by himself, and he produced it all by himself. And then I judge that compared to my stuff. I'd be like, how can I possibly get there? How can I compete? But now people can do what he does with the prompt.
How do you find that? Like, because you're growing, you're blowing up in the music industry right now. So are people approaching you and they're trying to be like, oh, I can write you a song, or we can collaborate and we can produce? Like, how do you keep your originality in that space?
I think it's just because it's built into it. You can't, right now, I don't think it's financially worthwhile for anyone to build a language learning machine that can produce poetry music. It just, it's just not a genre, specifically because every poet who works with music does it differently. Baxter Jury is different from Koji Radical, is different from Ghost Poet, is different from Mike Skinner, is different from Maxi Jazz, is different from Kate Tempest. Kate Tempest is different from James Messiah, is different from Sophia Takor, is different from me, is different from John Cooper Clarke, right? Every time you go into this lane where essentially every track, you're going to have a different relationship with how you write your music to the track versus the last one, right? And it's just not a genre that lends itself very, very well for people who want to make the quickest buck, the quickest way. It's
could AI not be similar in that capacity to people who, like, for example, Taylor Swift? They always talk about, like, she doesn't write her own music anymore, right? She's got like two main people who do it, and they write music for loads of other people, which is why all pop music across radio, whether you're in the UK or America or even Europe now, all sounds the exact same. It's the same two people are basically writing it. So is it not incredibly similar? Like, if AI is writing things that are all the same and the same two people are writing things that are all the same, how do you compete against that?
How do you compete? Well, the first problem is in the question. Compete. Why are you competing? Why are you competing? And that's, I guess, this is what I meant about, like, I no longer need to feel perfection, because everybody else can do it, and so therefore all of the slop is basically going off what those two people are making, off that sound that has been cultivated and been shown to be in the second. Whereas me, I'm here going, I need to write a poem that's probably not going to have a hook and probably not going to have verses. It's just going to be a big ass poem slapped on a repetitive bit, and it's going to be there. And you know what? It's going to be a niche of people who like it. Those niche are going to love it. I think it's very interesting. Like, when people say Mom Does the Watching went viral, it's only done like 1 million on Spotify, and it's done like about a few thousand, 100,000, 5 figures on YouTube. But the thing was, everyone who listened to it shared it, right? It wasn't enough that it wasn't like they listened to it and put it in a playlist and forgot about it, or it got on a big Spotify. It's just people who listened to it shared it. Everyone was like, I need to share it with someone, or blah, 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 blah. That was how its virality worked, right? And you can't plan for that. You can't write for that. You can't schedule for that, And that's the lane I live in. The most important part is I'm trying to connect with people, right? And it's just, I don't think it's that level. It's not that level of financially lucrative, right? It's emotionally lucrative. It's culturally lucrative, I would say, but financially, no. And that does me well. It does me well because it means I just don't have to be spot on. My metaphors don't have to be the most, accessible. My phrases, my references do not have to be the most universal.
Sure.
Right? Like, I don't have to fight with them. I don't, and because this is just a personal thing, I don't have to think, if the next song that comes after me is Kanye West, am I matching him on the loudness quota? Is my choruses as banging? No, it doesn't, because the people who are going to be coming to me want different.
Artists nowadays, do you not think, like, fighting against more things though, because they're fighting against AI, they're fighting against Spotify, who's taking away more and more of their money? Like, can anyone, like, is it walled off now? I know you said you're right, so you've been doing this for
20 years.
20 years. And you were making some of those songs before that are finally coming to fruition. Yeah. Artists nowadays, I've got a friend who makes very good music, and he's struggling to get it out there, get it popularized, because he's fighting against all these walls. And now you're talking about, like, tours and things as well, and I think that's a thing that artists need to take over, because now it's a thing where it's like, I can't remember, is it Eventbrite? No, not Eventbrite, Ticketmaster does the thing where, like, a lot of the ways in, like, the 90s and the noughties that artists could make money, they said, like, was merch, right? Nobody makes money from their music getting played anymore because it's on Spotify and you get like 0.00001 pence per play or something ridiculous like that. But now that's getting taken away as well, where like Ticketmaster will like kick out venues that try to give more money to their artists and try to bring it locally because they're taking away the money from the merch and taking money away from the tour. And now artists coming up are fighting against...
That happened to me when I went on a support tour with Baxter. We had some venues where they were like, they wanted 15%. 15%.
Yeah.
They wanted 15% regardless. And they also wanted to sell the merch, and they didn't sell the merch as well as we did. And I mean, I can talk about that forever. But what I want to say about artists nowadays is that it's always been hard. It's always been hard. At some point, there was a point where it didn't matter if you had talent, you had to be favored by the king.
Yeah.
Right. If you weren't favored by the king, you were just someone who was jobbing for pennies. Right. And then at some point, you had to record your music somehow. Right. And everyone said that was going to be the end of live performance. When I was growing up in the 80s, right, you had to, be signed to a label. You had to be signed to a label. Otherwise, there was no chance. There was no chance, right? It didn't matter how good you were. If the right person hadn't seen you, or you hadn't got the eye of a label who were willing to put the backing behind you and distribution, all of that stuff to get your music into HMV, and you weren't played on radio by the right person, then game over.
Did you do that? Were you with a label back in the day, or were you just making your own stuff?
I have always benefited from the internet. Like, I am of that generation. I started my music career on MySpace. Right? People don't know this, but there was a time before SoundCloud, before Bandcamp, right? You needed to go through distribution. The first thing I ever recorded, right? We went through this distribution thing. I think it was called Hot Cartel or something like that.
Right.
And they put the music on, I think, HMV for like 2 weeks before it disappeared forever. Right. That was our distribution. It was really bad. Pretty much vanity distribution until the social media platform called MySpace created a new profile called Artist Profile, where everyone could upload an MP3. And I saw an artist who I was friends with, called Scroobius Pip, upload a song he had done with a guy called Daedelus called Thou Shalt Always Kill, that went viral. Right? He just uploaded onto MySpace and it went viral.
Right.
And I was like, he can do it. How hard can it be? 20 years later,
Here we are.
Right? And that's what I'm trying to say with this is that there have always been challenges and there have always been opportunities. Yes, it's hard. It's really hard. Like, I am yet to make money from my gigs because the costs and the debt that we've gone into trying to kind of like go on tour is still something that needs to be filled. So all the money we make from our gigs goes directly to that, making sure that we can actually do the goals. And most times we come back and we make where we have made money is merch. We've made a lot of money on merch, and that's something that I'm really appreciative about. Quite blessed. It involves us keeping the cost very low. It's usually just me and Ludwig who are traveling. So there's no lighting.
Are you seeing any examples of it? Like we were talking about community and people building their own local community, and maybe smaller venues actually run by the people, not run by some massive corporation. Are you seeing that in Sweden or in parts of Europe? Because I feel like here it's still pretty.
Yeah, I think Sweden is it, like there are some examples. Boko of Youth, Boko of Youth. That's not his name. Boko Youth. Paul. He's been a big name in the kind of like the Swedish punk rock scene, right? And he used to run his own event called Stank Fest. Also, he works with Brother John, who runs a Hoop Diggers, which is a label.
Right.
And Boko Youth, the band that they signed, have been a big success story out of that because they've now gone on to kind of like be a big European band, and they're sort of mentioned a lot in the indie rock scene. I feel that, like, just going back to your past question, I feel that every moment is going to come with its opportunities and its challenges, right? Like, you are going to struggle to make money in the music scene right now because all of the avenues that where the money was made was closed, right? Now it's a lot worse. Before it used to be a label and they gave you 1p per music. Now it's a social media and Spotify where they give you 0.003. But the ease at which you can get your music out there is greater. Like, Mom does the washing. My story, and this goes back to my earlier point about everybody's avenue through spoken word and music being different. I put out a song called Mom Does the Washing in 2024. Before that, it was a poem, and before that, it was a Twitter thread on Twitter in 2015. It was just a thread, and the only reason why I started performing was because I did a show in Latitude Festival. I did a performance at Latitude Festival, and the thread had gone viral several times on Twitter, and someone recognized me and said, "Are you going to do Mom Does the Washing?" And at that point, I'd never thought of it. I'd never thought of it as a poem, but I just, just for a laugh, I read it. It was the funniest. It was the funniest and the most vibrant part of my set. People came up to me and said, "Oh, the poem you read about your dad dying, that's sad. But that one you read about Mom Does the Washing, that was it." And then it was only in 2024 that I thought, why haven't I turned this into a poem, into a song? Yeah. And I did. And boom, it's a lot of people's entry towards me, right? And all of that wouldn't have happened if social media had not created the circumstances for it. There's so many artists who are big now who are big primarily because of SoundCloud, because of Spotify. So there are these avenues, and yes, they've been corrupted, and it's much more difficult. But in that difficulty will come new avenues, right? Again, what I think his name is, it could be L.A. Rosso. I can't remember the name of the artist who I was talking about, who has just been doing backyard gigs that's suddenly blown up via that way. Yeah. In the steam down, who decided, you know what, burn all of this. We're just gonna do live gigs, and they just had a consistent Wednesday sold out, sweaty audience, and that was how they built themselves into this live band. There's always going to be avenues, and unfortunately, it means a lot of people who have the talent, right, might not make it, but the talent is only a fraction of it. What's also part of it is consistency, resilience, your community, how nice you are as a human being in general. All of those stuff that all come together to kind of like build this,
and a little bit of luck,
and probably a lot of luck, right? And that's going to be the nature of it. What I think what's really nice about now is that there are more people doing it, and so there's more chances of people getting out. And I don't look at AI Schlop with the amount of fear I used to before, because the kind of person who wants to listen to some AI version of Drake never wanted to listen to me. At least not at that point. Maybe at some point they might hear a poem that they connect with, and that will somehow lead to me, and then they'll be like, right? Like, why, a jazz musician didn't have anything to worry about me back when I used to listen to hip hop, because I just wasn't in their market. Sure. I wasn't in their lane. So why am I stressing about that? If AI can reproduce Shakespeare, right? And that, then maybe then I could be scared. But right now I'm pretty.
Are you getting AI reproductions or like new versions of your songs on the internet or anything like that?
All I'm getting is like people are sending me their own versions of Mom Does the Washing, which is just beautiful to behold. Like, someone sent me a Spanish version, which was way more way more radical and left. More like, they went hardcore. They were talking about some sister. I'm like, I didn't even know that was a thing. And they were like, really, I did the whole video for it. I was really sick. Yeah, and I feel like there isn't the opportunity for a viral hit in the same way as sort of doing a dance or rapping.
Sure.
Or, like it just doesn't lend
Or
itself.
a dog.
Or a dog. It just doesn't lend itself. I mean, there are poets who go viral all the time, but those people have put in years and years into their craft and they have to work at it. And also, like, you can't build a career on it. Right.
Well, I mean, a lot of people can, I imagine. I'm curious to hear, like, you must be meeting loads of artists who are, it's like the way YouTubers will be obsessed with, like, the algorithm, right? And, like, optimizing their video to be the best. There must be artists who sort of, I guess, slant towards selling out, if that's the right word.
Yeah, I mean, they always are, like, just to correct what I said before, there are poets who have managed to kind of, like, hit on a formula and get, and lucky bastards. I wanted to do a workshop so I can learn. There are ways to do that, but what I mean is, like, if those people, those poets, have come from a love of poetry, right? It just so happens that they are lucky, they are consistent, and they're good at their work, and they have worked towards that, and they are reaping the benefits of that. Sure. Right. What I mean is, if you're coming into it with, like, I just want to go viral, poetry is not where you're going to start. Right. It just isn't.
So I can't remember who said it, but it was if they made a movie, a song, or a book, or a whatever it is, clothes to make money. Don't watch it, buy it, read it. Whatever. And there's more of that than ever now. We were talking about, like, streaming services and Netflix and all that stuff, and, like, people are making stuff for the purposes of popular music or
Netflix. Yeah. Netflix movies. It's like, films that you can watch while staring at your phone.
Yeah.
Right? Because your second screen watch. Like, why would you want to become a poet to do that? It just baffles the mind. Just become a rapper. Do you know what I mean? I mean, I'm not. There are people who've kind of used poetry as a means to kind of, like, launch into something else. I mean, I might be talking in absolutes now, but I guess what I'm saying is that, like, if you just wanted to make money, even if you started as a poet, you're going to go somewhere else, right? If you're going to stay a poet, it's because you love poetry.
Yeah.
On some level, you love poetry. And so for me, right, and I think also your love of poetry, regardless of how you start, you're always going to sound unique from everybody else. Just because your love of words, your love of language, the way you speak, kind of like the way you present yourself is going to be very, very idiosyncratic, right? Because that's what happens. You're going to dig so deep into yourself, into the work, into your references, that you're going to create something that sounds so... And for you to spend all that time doing that, for the little reward it gives, when you could easily be a rapper or a comedian or anything else, you just go. You just go off and do that. And so the lane I'm in, it's a poor man's lane. It's a niche lane, more or less. There's a chance. Don't get me wrong, there's a chance you can succeed, but it just requires a lot more work versus the return, right? The proposed return. And so therefore, with that in mind, I'm like, well, I don't see a lot of people doing that. I don't see a lot of people kind of like pushing, aiming for that as their avenue if they don't already have the love. And when I see that, then there isn't going to be the large amount of information that a language learning machine can then scrape to start producing the work of any consequence. And so, I might be talking like a Luddite 10 years from now. Come meet me, I'll be like, yep, I'm here in the caves with you, shoveling shit. Because there's an AI poet doing it way better.
Okay, you've got this mind. I can't believe that you always had this mindset when you were starting out, though. Like, you must have had, when you were starting, did you think you were a rapper and you were trying to break into that scene? You were trying to fit yourself into a certain narrative? Because, like, it's nice to, like, be at the point at where you are. And I would describe, and I have described your music as poetry with music, with like beats underneath. There must have been a point at which you came to this. So, like, what was it like, sort of like coming up in the world of music, and like, were you trying to fit yourself into something, and then you switched?
I used to joke that I did poetry and music because I thought it would be easy, and I realized it wasn't. But no, it wasn't that I thought it was easy. It was just the only thing that made sense to me.
Yeah.
Listening to Maxi Jazz talking about, not being able to get any sleep, or listening to Goat Poet talking about, drinking too much, or Scroobius Pip with Thou Shalt Is Killed. These were all, modes of communication, with a musical background that just clicked in my head. And also, I guess rapping just seemed American. It just seemed very closed off to me. It was like, I didn't really see anyone like myself
Because it was before, like, because now there's the big rap
No,
movement, there's all this stuff, but this is before then.
Yeah. I mean, back in the day, the only person who I remember for a long time, the only person who I saw who I kind of could see myself in as a rapper was Dizzy Rascal, right? And that's because he squealed. He squealed a lot. I was like, oh yeah, that's something I would do, you know? But before then, it was like, you know, I'm looking at Max Kinder, I'm like, okay, yeah, this is, yeah. They're talking about stuff I understand. And Maxi Jazz, well, that's kind of what I'd look like if I was in my 40s and I decided not to wear my shirt in a public space, right? Right? And so when I got the opportunity and I got the desire to work with music, it made sense. It was the only sense that where it didn't make sense for me to rap because I didn't see any inroads into it. I appreciated rap. I loved it. I have loads of favorite rappers, but I always saw it same way as I would see country music. It's good. I like it. I don't see myself doing it. Right. Whereas poetry, it was like, yeah, of course I see myself. I think of Maxi Jazz talking about I'm going to bury my child and dig up a gun. I'm like, yep, that's exactly what I would think of, and that's exactly how I would. It's actually the kind of line I'd put down. And so yeah, I never saw myself as a rapper. I never saw myself as a singer.
Did you try any of those things at any point?
Yeah. Like, if you go on Spotify, you can see any of my other bands where I tried very hard to rap. What I thought was really interesting was like, it didn't matter. Sometimes I'm like, oh, I've written a rap song. And then people be like, that's a poem. I'm like, but can't you see I'm rapping? They're like, you're a poet. I'd be like, I've written a song and I'm singing it. It's a lovely vocal song you've written.
Doing Shakespearean sonnets about guns and money.
I'm all there kind of like trying to use my voice. And it was like, why are you trying to sing the poem? Just say it.
Why do you look like Dizzy Rascal so much in that?
Why do you look like Dizzy Rascal trying to rap? Like
exactly. Like
I don't feel like there was any other lane sort of in art. I don't feel like there was any other lane that I could have occupied beyond poetry. I mean, the stuff I could do and the stuff that I could do decently, but the thing that I did well was poetry. And so, yeah.
What was your entrance into that then? Were you reading books about poetry, or was it a specific poet? Did you hear John Cooper Clarke when you were younger? Like, what was it's such a niche thing. I don't know anyone else who's really into poetry. I've met a couple of people who do that. I know you've worked with like Newer Ellams and stuff. I think he's brilliant.
Yeah.
But like, why poetry in the first place? And like, when was that? How long ago were you?
I think it was his Rascal.
Yeah.
I think it was his Rascal coming home, watching Channel U and seeing, what's it called, Boy in the Corner. And at that time I remember watching, because I watched a lot of, my dad owned a video rental store. So I watched a lot of film. And every time a poem would come on in the film, I'd be like, whoa, what is this?
As opposed to music.
As opposed to music, like especially if I had a poem on music, it would just like, he's not rapping. Remember the first time I heard The Streets, I'm like, he's not rapping. What is he doing? And I'd be like, I don't like it. I'm gonna listen to it again. I remember listening to Geezers Need Excitement. I would listen to that on repeat. I'm like, I like what he's doing. I just don't like the way he's not rapping.
Yeah.
And that, I remember when I watched this film Equilibrium. Starring Sean Bean in another one of the movies where he dies.
Yeah.
It's like Sean Bean, his contract is like, and I die,
Yeah.
I die. I need to die in the first third. So,
yes.
So season 1, I'm dead.
Yeah,
yep,
right at the end. Yeah.
I mean, spoilers. If you haven't seen Game of Thrones already. Yeah. So he's doing this film, and it's this film where, all emotions are banned, so all books are burnt and everything. Right. But he smuggles a copy of W.B. Yeats. He wishes from the clots of heaven. That's the poem he reads. And he cries at the end of it, and I remember just hearing him reading. I was just like, "Oh, I need to get this book." And I jacked that book so hard, man. It was, things fall apart. Ooh,
yeah,
that's a poem.
Yeah,
I went to university, and I wanted to be a scriptwriter.
For film.
For film. I mean, but it's just script writing. You just learn scripts. I didn't make it past first year. And that's because the drama module was filled up. So it was oversubscribed. So they were like, you could take the poetry module, which I took, but I didn't want to pay attention. And I wasn't paying attention in class. And in one class, the teacher said, if you don't go to a poetry a live poetry event, I'm going to fail you. And I thought he was joking. I didn't. No, he was joking, but I thought he wasn't. So I went to the poetry cafe. And the poetry cafe on Tuesday night, they had this night called Poetry Unplugged. It's not happening anymore, but they were doing it on Tuesday night. Around 30 poets watching, very sweaty basement. And I sat there for the first and I saw so much terrible poetry that I was like, I can do better than this. I can do better than this. Come on,
I feel like that's the way a lot of people find their way into whatever it is they do. They look at something, they go, fucking hell.
Yeah, Chuck Palahniuk said that about that's a modern curse. It's a modern curse that like people will see stuff and they don't see the art. They only graded via sort of references they have in their head, and they will often think I can do it. And that was me. I would like to I can do better than this. So I wrote this poem where I basically ripped off Allen Ginsberg. I just was like, imagine if Allen Ginsberg wrote Howl, but about Nigeria. And I wrote that poem and I performed that poem, and everyone came up to me and was like, oh my God, that poem was so good. And I'm like, yeah. And then one guy came up to me and was like, do you have more? And I'm a Nigerian. If someone says, do you have more? You lie. And I said, yes, I have more. And he goes, would you like to do a 20-minute set?
Right now?
No, not right now. Like a month's time, 20-minute set.
Sure.
I'll book you for a night. We'll pay you £20. That's £1 a minute, right? That's £1 a minute.
That's more than most people are getting in London.
That's more people get in London in 2003. I'll tell you that as well.
And you're basically Jeff Bezos. We were talking about him earlier.
I was,
you were, in 2003.
Every step. I was absolutely killing it. So I went home and I wrote a whole bunch of poems. And it just talked. I got the bug from performing from there. But with music, it was kind of like Dizzy Rascal and Boy in the Corner. But yeah.
So you're still performing with the same people that you met back in the day, or you've gone through like loads of different bands?
Oh God!
Like you looking at the time, you're like, how much time? A couple of minutes ago.
I'm just like if we start talking about like my bands, and we be
you don't have to name names.
No, I don't have to. I don't mind. Like, what are they gonna do? Sue me?
We'll just cut it out.
Yeah, no. I started out with a group called Poem Between People. And then it was me, Musa, Konga, and Inuwa Elams. And then transitioned into a live band called Benin City, which started life as a comedy rap band because I thought if I made people laugh, then maybe people wouldn't notice the fact that I couldn't rap. So we did that for a bit, and then that band then transitioned into kind of like an electronic brass band because I love brass, I love John Barry. And we released a few albums, critically acclaimed, commercially poor. That's the way it goes. I was part of an electronic band called LV and Joshua Idehen. We did a track called The Novel Line, which got a lot of internet notoriety, and another track called Imminent, which also got a lot of internet notoriety. But the thing people mostly knew me for was when I had gone to the poetry cafe at one point, I met another poet who brought a saxophone and was tall, and I was like, again, because I love brass and I love anything horn. So I go up to him and I'm like, you're reading poetry and you're blowing the saxophone and you're tall like me. So therefore, we have to be friends. That person was Shabaka Hutchins. And years later, I met him at the South Bank and he told me, hey, I'm starting a band. You should check it out. Here's our CD. What's the band called? Sons of Kemet. And then I see him again at some other point. I go, hey, that Sons of Kemet CD you gave me was kind of nice, really good. And he goes, okay, you should check out my new band, which I'm about to perform right now. I go, what's the name of that band? Comet Is Coming. And then I was just this big champion of him. I booked some of his gigs. So at some point they were like, hey, do you want to do some poems on some of our tracks? So I ended up doing tracks for Sons of Kemet and Comet Is Coming and going on tour with them. And those tracks, they blew up as did the rest of the album. That's what I was kind of known for. And then I also did an R&B band as well. Yeah. At one point, and I did a jazz fusion project with Alabaster the Plume called Calabashed, which was probably could have done something, except it was a band that was going to be, it was a 6-piece band, so we had to perform live, and we released our album, or planned to release our album in 2020. And as you remember, no one was seeing it.
A couple of things happened
in 2020 that meant no one wanted to watch live bands anywhere. So yeah, that we did one gig at the Barbican, which was a really good gig. It's a really good gig. Our other gig at the South Bank got cancelled really hard. Right. And yeah, that was how I caught my teeth. Lots of features, loads of bands, several bands at the same time. And then I moved to Sweden and just decided, you know what, I've spent my entire life wanting to do spoken word and dance music. Now's the time. Yeah.
What was the move to Sweden all about?
Love.
Yeah. That'll do it.
Yeah.
You like it there now? Happier than living in the UK.
Oh God, let's not let that. There's not enough time.
Yeah,
there's not enough time. I mean, there are things the UK does better. It has a better selection of food.
Sure.
Yeah. Just because it just has a larger selection of
what
food.
Is it Swedish food in Sweden?
No,
I don't think I've ever actually been there.
No, Swedish food is all right. It's just they don't have the selection. They just don't have selection. Like I know one Chinese, I know one Indian, whereas here is like, where do you want to go? Brick Lane.
Yeah.
Brick Lane or Chinatown. It's where do you want to go?
Yeah.
Right. And also like I think it's interesting how culture sort of shapes a society, because over in Sweden, the arts is so well funded that they don't have a bustling art scene, because everybody who has any modicum of talent is immediately given, is supported from school or with the arts grant. So then they go off and do their own thing. So everybody's doing their own show. There's no kind of like, oh, it's a talent show, or it's a variety night, or it's just a night where there's a whole bunch of art. That don't exist. It's either we're going to see this artist because he's big, right? And if I don't know who the artist is, I'm not spending money on them. Whereas the UK, there is no money in the arts. So everyone is doing all of these. You're always doing a lot of
free nights all the time.
Free nights, up and coming nights, different events here and there, and people kind of helping each other out, trying to push each other up, because we have to kind of support ourselves. And in between you learning you're good at something versus you're got a fan base, there is that middle where you essentially just honing your craft and you're learning from the people around them, and you're building your scene, right? And a lot, in Sweden, like a lot of those venues where a lot of small to medium acts can sort of thrive and build don't really exist. Like you've got, for example, Fashion, which is kind of like their version of the Jazz Cafe, 330 people. And then after that, you got the Besa, which is their version of the Village Underground. And then that's it, right? And then everything else is sort of, you're looking at big numbers, right? Whereas in the UK, you've got, what's it called? Waiting Room. You've got Savant Jazz Quarters, which cater to like 100 people, right? You sell that one out, you can kind of like brag on the internet. And then you've got what's it called, Ivy Room, you've got the Lower Third, you've got several places that cater for every developmental stage of an artist's life. Like when you want to sell out this one, you want to sell to this one, you want to sell in all different boroughs, right? So that kind of bustling scene that supports the artists in that way, it still exists. It's under threat, but it still exists. Whereas in Sweden, because I guess the money is coming from somewhere else, that culture, that vibrant culture just isn't there. So that's one thing I miss. But apart from that, like quality of life is, I mean, I don't know what to tell you. I live good.
Other than the snow.
Other than the snow. I mean, even the snow, because again, as we were saying, it's raining today. As we were saying, the thing about Sweden is that the weather doesn't lie. The weather will look you in the face and be like, I'm going to be fucking cold. And when you're fucking cold, you're going to fucking freeze. You better wear them cotton socks. You better wear them woolly socks, man. You are going to, you better double layer.
Do you like it?
Yes. I love having that relationship. It's like, it's like if you spent your entire life meeting up with trying to date people who are always kind of like, maybe, I don't know if I love you. And then you meet someone who goes, I love you, but I'm going to treat you like shit. I'm going to love you. I'm going to love you better than you've ever been.
Honesty that you want.
And that honesty just like, oh my God. Oh, she slapped me after this meal, but it tastes so good. It's just, where you stand. Like I have like long johns and woolly socks in my bag, so when I go back to
permanently
Sweden,
glued to your body.
When I get out to the airport, I'm just gonna layer up before I go outside, because I know what the weather's gonna be. Right now it's -10 there.
So are you doing a lot of stuff while you're in Sweden then? With you say there's not as many scenes as there are in London. Are you doing a lot of stuff there? Do you come back to London and you do gigs around Europe? Or?
We've sold out our first venue in Stockholm, but before then, Stockholm was very supportive. Like the grant scene there gave me a lot of money to basically they looked at the same body of work that the UK would have looked at and went, nah, we can't see. They looked at it and they were like, we can see the value in your work, and they gave me money to just like, go ahead and develop your craft, which was the reason why I was able to make this project. Do not underestimate the power of money to give artists the chance to find themselves. Right? It's one of the things that I annoys me about the UK scene. We have money to fucking fund to give to the queen so she can give it to her prince so he can pay someone as an apology for raping her when she was 14, but we don't have money for it. Anyway.
the DLR that's just out here, they rebranded it. They gave them different color schemes, right? And they renamed the lines, and that was all they did. It's the same DLR.
It's the same DLR.
Cost like £5 million.
I mean, we can talk about that for ages. What were we talking about just now?
Get back to Batman. I don't know.
I went in around. What were we talking about? We're talking about
funding in Sweden and what it's like to be performing there.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. I'm back now. I'm back. So it is. It's smaller. It's about 12 million in all of Sweden, the whole Sweden. And I think Stockholm is about 1. So there's not a lot of opportunities to kind of like repeat perform. Generally, if you perform there twice a year, that's it.
Right.
But at the same time, there's just that much opportunity. I think I myself, again, I'm quite lucky that I'm in a country where everyone speaks English, but no one does what I do. Right? Nobody does what I do. No one does spoken word. And the one person who does spoken word does it in Swedish. Right? I'm the only one who does it in English. I'm the only one who does it in English who is black. Right? I'm the only one who does it in English and does it to poetry and not hip hop or whatever. Right? You look at someone like, if I was in the UK, right? Before you book me for a thing, you've got Anthony Schmerich, you've got Get Down Services, you've got For Those I Love, you've got K Tempest, you've got James Messiah, you've got Koji Radical, you've got Ghost Poet, you've got Mike Skinner. Do you understand? You go, hell, you could fucking digitally automate Maxi Jazz and bring. You got John Cooper Clark, and that's not talking about the other people within the scene. Yomi Sode, Inua Elams, Musa Kwanga, all the Sophia Takor, Holly McNeese. You could just start banging the end before you come down to Joshua Idehen, right? But in Sweden, when they wanted someone to do a version of David Byrne's Once in a Lifetime, there was just me. They're like, we want a person to do it, and because we're doing a version, because they had this thing called Polar Prize, and in Polar Prize they celebrate other artists, like big artists, and the way they celebrate the big artists is by having smaller artists perform covers of their music. So they have like Now Rogers one time. At one point they had Chris Blackwell, who was the head of Island Records, and they also had Angelique Kidjo, who's this big African artist now, and Chris Blackwell had helped David Byrne and Talking Heads record their big album with Once in a Lifetime on it. And Angelique Kidjo had done a cover of that entire album, right? So they were like, how can we combine the two? We need to get someone who's going to do a cover of Once in a Lifetime, reference to Chris Blackwell, but also we need him to be black, reference to Angelique Kidjo. So who do we have who's a poet?
One person.
It's just me. It's just me.
The Venn diagram centers on you.
and that kind of, I mean, obviously I'm niche and I was quite lucky that happened, but it happened. And and the distance between the person who saw me in a pub, right? And she went from the pub to like, we want you on Swedish national television. Like that kind of gap. It's just that the UK equivalent, like if someone saw me performing in like a dive band, they're like, do you want to be on Juice Holland? That kind of jump just doesn't happen.
Sure.
Right? And that then the amount of money that I've been given just based off my back, not commercial viability, just, the quality of my work is not viable. It's not to say it's not hard to get. It is quite hard to break into. It is quite insular. But I have a Swedish manager and I have a Swedish team, and they've been quite helpful in that way to sort of open me up to Swedish markets. And now that I'm a known quantity there, things are a lot easier, right? And
maybe I'm missing a trick then. I need to move to, I'm an actor, I need to move to Saudi Arabia because there's too many actors in London.
I've said London is great for culture, it's great for honing your craft, but there's something about being a big fish in a small pond. There's just something about going somewhere else where you're not having to fight everybody over the same slice of bread, right? There's just something about it, because once you go there, you're like, oh shit, like, you still have the same quality of work. People can still appreciate the work, but you're not constantly looking at people going, which one of us is going to get this job? Every day is no X Factor.
It's the same 4 people and the other ones always get ahead of me every single time.
Oh God, like when I was here and I was trying, because I used to do a lot of facilitatory work. And you go to the auditions and you see the same faces there.
Right, yeah.
You're like, oh, okay, cool, good luck. Yeah. Didn't you do the last one? You're back. Don't want anybody else to win.
Right.
But I think don't come to Sweden. But
that's all right. We're not going to be able to compete in anything. Yeah.
No, it has been beneficial to me. Like Sweden has sort of taken me into with open arms, and I have benefited from living there and working from there. And surprise, the big market for my work is the UK. It took me traveling to be appreciated.
Just to come
here.
back, yeah. It must be nice though to like have the time and the money to experiment with your stuff, and like, because you experimented for so long, and you were talking about all the different bands you were working with. Like it built, it's that classic thing of like I really like the the myth of the Chinese farmer. This idea of you're right for time.
Yeah.
Myth of the Chinese farmer is basically this Chinese farmer, and he's got a son, and one day the son lets out a horse, and the horse runs away, and it's like, oh Christ, like all the neighbors come up to the farmer and they're like, that's bad luck, and he goes, we'll see. And the next day 3 horses come back with a horse. They find their way back and they go, oh, that's great luck, and he goes, we'll see. And the next day one of the horses breaks his son's leg, and they go, oh, that's bad luck, and the farmer goes, we'll see. And next day, China goes to war with another country, and so they draft all the young men off to war. His son doesn't need to go to war because he's broken his leg, and they go, oh, that's good luck, your son's not going to die. And he goes, we'll see. And so it's this idea that you don't know necessarily what's going to come from what you're doing. And so the reason I'm mentioning this and I'm asking about that is there must have been a lot of experiment and a lot of projects that you did that maybe when you were in it, you were like, maybe this isn't the thing, or this isn't me, or this isn't who I want to be, but it's sort of led to where you are now.
Oh yeah. Like I think I am thankful now that everything is working out. That I just experimented and failed breathlessly, right, in my youth. And again, I'm also thankful that at the point when I was older and I had an idea of what I wanted to do, I was able to be somewhere where someone said, here, have some money. Like, again, money when you are poor, working class, an artist, is very important, because it is very important, I feel, for an artist to create work that is not connected to whether they're going to eat. Like, because when it's connected to whether you have to eat, that skews your influences, your intentions, where you're going, your direction, all of it. And I, for the first time, like when I was in England working, like a lot of the bands, it was always kind of like, okay, so how is this going to make money? That was always a thought at the back of my head. That, I don't think that thought ever disappears, but it was louder in the UK.
Yeah.
When my mom was telling me like, when are you gonna start making money? When are you gonna quit all of this nonsense and be a teacher? When I was working behind the bar but trying to write a poem on the receipt paper, and I'm there thinking, but why are you doing this? How it's gonna work? When I went to Stockholm and I was still trying to push these 3 or 4 bands from Stockholm that were still in the UK, I'm thinking, how is this going to make money? And then someone gives you a fat wad of cash and says, your work is great. Let's see what you do now that you don't have to worry about that. And then what did I do? I went, spoken word and dance. And my whole intention for all of 2022 was like, whatever happens, I did what I wanted to do, and I wouldn't have had to pay for it. I wouldn't be in debt. It wouldn't be like I'd have to go work as an intern at Orchard Distribution to pay off my 5-figure debt with them. I didn't have to do that. And looking at, I know I'm lucky, but I also know that so much great art could be made if people didn't have to worry about their paycheck.
Yeah.
And I think the fact that a lot of music is being populated by people who can afford to do that, right? And the people who have very interesting, vital, and original voices don't have that bandwidth. They don't have that economic bandwidth to do that. It is only the people who have less to say and a very mediocre things to say or very boring things to say that happen to have the money or the backing. And that's a tragedy. I think it's wrong. And I think the kind of people who should be balancing that out, letting a lot more women and people from different backgrounds, from different origins, who have different sexual origins, who would enrich society, give us all a lot more to think about. So, aren't given the leg up that they deserve, regardless of the quality of their work.
Sure.
I just think it's poop.
Full stop.
I do have to bounce because it's 12:14 now.
That's all right. No worries. This has been lovely. Thank you.
It has been. Thank you so much for this conversation. I came into this today just feeling a bit under the weather, and with the rain,
Yeah,
it
it's
wasn't
horrible
happening, it wasn't
outside.
happening. But
Yeah.
no, this has been wonderful.
It's great.
It's been wonderful. Hopefully I can come back and we can have that rant properly. I feel like
Talk about Batman.
if
People
it
need to
be-
hear
you
about
know,
it next time.
you're not going to hear it, but before we started, right, I had a big rant about, Batman and Elon Musk. And I promise you,
It took me about 20 minutes to understand what you were on about.
I promise you, it is. I might just drop it. I might drop it on my Patreon.
Exclusive subscribers content.
Exclusive subscriber rant. I might even be on something. But yeah, thank you very much, mate.
Cheers, mate.
Cheers.
Thank you.
All right.